Hey folks, we're here tonight. We're gonna talk about a movie. I got Dom with me. Dom, um,
Hello.
how you doing, man? Uh,
Doing good. How are you?
good. Dom's out in Portland, and I'm in New Hampshire, so we're on opposite ends of the coast, but we both love movies, and we kind of wanted to talk about one of the fan favorites and one of our favorites, and I think I think as far as the which movie we're going to talk about, we what do you think, John?
Well, go ahead and give them a clue.
Well, you hearing that?
I'm hearing it. I'm not sure it's enough to give the clue, but it is like the classic tuba.
Yes. Oh yeah. Which actually, so I think everybody, if they heard that, everybody knows that's the classic shark movie. Everybody's favorite movie, Jaws, if you love shark movies. Um, and 1975, a long time ago, and probably the first real shark movie. I mean, there were pretenders and there were other
Certainly the biggest.
certainly, and Spielberg, the best director you could possibly get for that movie. Spielberg, the man, and what a cast! Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. So I mean, how good is that? But
So I got to tell you, I'll be
sure,
perfectly honest.
yeah,
Jaws is far from my favorite movie.
really,
Like
yeah,
personally, it's okay,
yeah. It's
but I don't understand how it had that big an impact. I mean, that's what I'm most impressed by. It's not necessarily the movie itself,
right.
but my God, has it had far-reaching repercussions?
Oh yeah. Well, I understand it because I think at the time, because I was young, I was probably 16, something like that when that came out,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how old I am. But but I mean, it scared the hell out of people. People went to the beach and they were freaking out in the water. I mean, there had been some shark documentaries and there had been a few movies, but my God, people were panicking. There were in places where there were no great whites or very few.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So I
The
think I
but both the movie and the author of the book, Peter Benchley,
yeah.
got into hot water from a lot of environmental groups because they felt they were responsible for
Yeah.
the slaughter of great
Oh,
whites.
people were killing sharks.
Yeah.
What's going on? I mean, there were people going out like hunting them, So I can understand Quentin doing it. But yeah, there were people that were just, there were like 20 somethings, college kids would go out and charter a boat and they go out and kill sharks. And it's like, we're doing somebody a favor. And it's like, well,
Oh yeah, there was a reported decline in the population,
yeah,
and I again the author of the book, Peter Benchley, he spent decades as an activist trying to basically save the sharks.
right. Which says something for him. That's actually pretty good that he
Hmm.
did. But yeah, and talking about the theme too, one of the things that I found hilarious was um who was it? Was it John Williams?
John Williams, yep.
Yeah, that composed the theme. He well, I guess Spielberg was a big fan, and
Hmm.
he was real happy because John Williams said, "Yeah, I'll do the soundtrack." And so they got together for the first time. I don't know if you've heard the story, but I thought it was hilarious. He sits down at the piano. Spielberg's there, and he Spielberg said he thought like there was going to be this thing with strings and all kinds of this elaborate composition, and he said John Williams is at the piano going dun dun done. And he said he thought he was joking, and he was like, yeah, and so he's like, no, that's it. And he said, play it again, and he had him play it a couple of times, And then he was like, yeah, that's it, so
I gotta say, like I almost consider John Williams the star of that movie, because
yeah.
none of that movie would have had the impact it had
Oh
without
yeah.
that soundtrack.
Well, that shows you how important a soundtrack
Oh yeah.
and the right soundtrack it can make or kill a movie. I mean, you think about it. Yeah, without that music in the water showing the impending, and sometimes the shark attack wouldn't even happen. It was just, but it kind of comes down to what Hitchcock used to say. It's the suspense.
Mhm.
People don't understand. Hollywood doesn't understand it anymore about horror, but it's not body count. It's not me coming in with a knife, slaughtering somebody. That's not scary. What's scary is somebody going down the steps into the basement, and is the killer down there? Who's down there? What's going to happen? It's the suspense of what's going to happen. And that was
Mhm.
what made Jaws so damn scary was
It's funny. No, that was when I read up on it. That was a movie that was riddled with problems,
yeah, oh
technical
my god, yeah.
difficulties, weather working against
The
them.
shark.
But like ultimately, I think Spielberg himself said that, you know, the way those difficulties influenced the filming, it forced the movie to become less of a Godzilla with this
Yes,
monster
yeah,
shark and more of a Hitchcock film.
yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the problems with a lot of the shark movies today, because I mean Jaws, no, like Jaws isn't my favorite movie of all time.
Mhm.
But it's one of my, if not my probably my favorite shark movie. When it comes to shark movies, there's been some real good ones lately. But as far as like how that was done, the fact that they had Spielberg directing it, it turned it from a monster movie, which the
Mhm.
shark is a monster.
Mhm.
In my book, it is. I don't want to be
Oh,
eaten that way.
he even talked about how Godzilla was an inspiration for part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You need, and you need some menace. And what more menacing than, because human beings, when you're on land, you have access to maybe you have a gun or whatever. There's so many things that you can get away. You can get into a vehicle and get away. You're in the water. You're man is it's not his natural element. So you're in the water swimming, and your feet are, you have no idea what's underneath you. It's scary. And even if you do, if you're in a, diving gear, it's scary as hell.
You see,
But
this is one of the reasons why Jaws doesn't scare me. It's because I hate the water. I know
right.
I'm not everyone, but I will
Oh,
be
I
caught
hate, yeah.
dead swimming if I can help it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If I go into, first of all, I haven't been in the ocean in years, probably since I was a kid. But I've put my feet in the water. But that's the thing, is like I have no desire to swim in the ocean. It's
Mhm, mhm.
this, between jellyfish, sharks, there's way too many things. I'm not even that fond of a pool. But and I certainly don't want a shark in my pool either. But but no, and then the other thing is, with Jaws, is the cast with Shaw, Scheider, and Dreyfus. Um, in the sequels, and like Jaws 2, I think is a solid movie. After that, it started getting kind of lame, the franchise, and of course, even the second one didn't have Spielberg, but and it sure didn't have Shaw, and didn't have Dreyfus. But poor Scheider was just trying to hang on there, collect his paycheck. but but no, when you have those three guys in the original Jaws, my God, that cast was just so great. And even though, we got to talk about the feud between.
You keep telling me about this, but I've read from a number of different sources. Some call it a feud, some call it like a minor disagreement.
Well, here's I mean, I've been really reading up on it and watching stuff. And have you heard about the Hollywood, or not the Hollywood? When I say Hollywood, the play that has been put out by Ian Shaw, um, Robert
Jaws
Shaw's
play?
son. Well, here's what's going on. This is actually the play is actually running now. As far as I'd love to see it. I wish they'd film it.
What's the play called?
Well, it's called The Shark is Broken,
Okay.
and it's yeah, it's called, but it's he mined his father's diaries and all the stuff that the father had written, and the father was Robert Shaw was a writer. I mean, he was a classical Shakespearean actor. He did Shakespeare, and Dreyfus was intimidated. He was a young actor, described by a lot of people as being very neurotic. And he's a brilliant actor. When I say this stuff, I'm not trying to take away from. I love Dreyfus. He's been in so many great movies, and they needed him in Jaws.
I gotta say that neurotic nature really played in well to his character. It was a really
absolutely
great foil for Shaw's character, for Quint.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, apparently, because Dreyfus is very defensive about the feud thing, and he says there was no feud. But a lot of the people on the set, including Spielberg, Scheider talked about it a little bit. Different people that worked on the set talked about it, but apparently, because he was a young he had just done the apprenticeship of Dudley Kravitz. He when he did that movie, he thought that was going to be his breakout movie. It wasn't. And it's not a terrible movie, but it wasn't his, what didn't make him a star. So he came on to Jaws and probably thinking, okay, well, it's going to be a popular movie, maybe not, because Spielberg was actually pretty new too at the time. But yeah, so he comes on, and there's Robert Shaw, and Robert Shaw is bigger than life, and so I think he was really intimidated by him. And I think Shaw probably looked at Dreyfus like, this young kid. I think he's never done Shakespeare. He's never done that much. And he thinks he's something. So I think and Shaw was a drinker, heavy drinker.
Oh yeah.
Was that.
And that's why I'm wondering, and again, I should tell any viewers out there, we're just two guys chatting about movies.
Absolutely.
We're not experts. If we get anything wrong, please tell us in the comments.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and again, this is all stuff, you read about. It's like a gossip paper or something like that. People read something in a gossip paper and they take it as gospel. And, I know Dreyfus went to see the play, and he said he knew it was going to be harsh. And he said when he went to see the play, he said it was worse than he thought it was going to be. And, yeah.
So is the play mainly about the feud itself during the filming?
It's really about the behind the scenes stuff that happened on the set, and how, because the reason it's titled The Shark is Broken is because there were so many that shark would not work. Nowadays they use CGI, which that's terrible. But there were all kinds of there's one scene I actually watched it last night on YouTube, and it was there's a lot of good scenes from it. People ought to check it out. The play looks like it's a great play, but yeah, there's a scene where, because one of the things that was going on, that the tremendous, fantastic scene that made the movie, the Indianapolis story, which again, a true story that really happened, and not to Robert Shaw, but Robert Shaw was perfect for telling the story. That
monologue.
Yes, that monologue was 7 pages when they gave it to Robert Shaw. He goes, I can't do this. This is way too long. I can't do this. And so in the play, there's a scene where, because they broke it down to 5 pages. And they said Scheider was like the middleman between Dreyfus and Shaw, and he brought the play, or the script to Shaw, and he goes, they broke it down to 5 pages, and he's like, it's still too long, and he ended up rewriting it himself.
Yeah, I had heard Shaw did some of the rewrites on the script.
but this one scene that's so damn hilarious. The Shaw and Scheider are going back and forth about it, and you can see Dreyfuss is sitting there, and he's just kind of like, and they really played him up as the actors that are playing them are pretty good. The son plays Robert Shaw. He plays his dad, and he looks like his dad, and he does the Irish accent. I mean, he's really good. And in the middle of this thing where Shaw is going back and forth, and with Scheider about it's too long, I can't do this, and Scheider says they'll probably cut it, and he goes, they can't cut it. It's the whole reason. It explains everything about why Quint's the madman that he is. And right in the middle of that, Dreyfuss looks at Shaw, and he goes, "Do you think I could do Shakespeare?" And there's this big pause, and Shaw looks over at Dreyfuss. He goes, "No." And then they just go on with the conversation, and you can see Dreyfuss is like, what the hell? Just insulted me. But yeah, it's they really do. They bang.
I can see how that play got made, because that movie was so riddled with problems.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I heard Spielberg thought he would never direct again.
Yeah.
After that, they went like they were scheduled for like 50 days, and they went 3 times that long.
Yeah.
They went like double over budget.
Oh yeah.
Went to the
studios hate.
the crew nicknamed the movie Flaws.
Wow.
Because
I didn't know
there
that.
were so many problems.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. That's pretty good. But yeah, and I'm telling you, like I said, it's all those problems though that made the movie what it is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Do you know? I know before we were filming.
Yeah.
We were talking about. You mentioned Ron and Valerie Taylor that did some shark footage that made it.
Yeah.
Into the movie. That footage saved Richard Dreyfuss's character's life. He was supposed to die. In
really?
The movie.
Yeah.
And I
didn't know he was supposed to die.
Yeah, he was supposed to die, and the footage was so good. It showed an empty cage.
Right.
And so the only way for that to make sense is if Dreyfuss's character escaped the cage.
Right. Well, and that's another thing. I guess that, like, because you see the scenes where Dreyfuss is in the cage, and he said that cage he got trapped down there a couple of times because nothing worked on that set.
Yeah,
and so I mean, it's possible, you never know, he could have drowned on that. But I mean, there were and Robert Shaw was talking about the mechanical the mechanical shark, because he has to get swallowed by it. He said that everything was going wrong with that damn shark, and he had to slide down the deck into the shark's mouth. He said they did that like 20 times, and he said he was soaking wet. It was cold, and he said they're sliding. He's sliding in there, and the thing would slam shut on him. And he said it was like he was getting beat up every time. And he wasn't that young. He died a year later.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he died a year later when after that movie was made. I don't think the shark killed him. I think it had more to do with bourbon than anything else. But he definitely
That's one of the reasons why I thought that the feud between him and Dreyfuss was overblown, because from what I heard, anytime he didn't have to work on set, he spent as much time as possible in Canada drinking.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah, he was really like he drank on set too. And because that's one of the stories Dreyfuss acknowledges, and actually about their feud. What he said was, he said that Shaw was the nicest guy in the world offset, and when they just be sitting around talking and drinking. And he said the closer, and Shaw wasn't a method actor, but he sure acted like it when he was on that movie. Because from what Dreyfuss would say he said the closer he got to the set, the worse he got towards me. Oof. And he said he just became really abusive as they got closer. And so he said I'll admit it. He said he had my number. He said he really he really got me to me. And he said he used to say stuff like, "You can't jump off that mast." And he said, I could. He said I was young, I was in good shape, and he said I absolutely could. And he said, and then he'd say to him, "You can't do 50 push-ups," and he'd say, "I could do 50 push-ups." He said, "But I couldn't when he's." So he had him intimidated, and
What did Shaw just manipulate Dreyfus?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think he was really having fun with it. So and probably, when you're some drinkers get mean when they drink.
Oh yeah, yeah. Any actor, any artist,
Yeah,
they're bound to have eccentric personality.
sure. We all have each other.
Right, exactly.
But
exactly.
I mean, I'm not exactly normal, but no. I guess the story that Dreyfus acknowledges, we don't have to keep talking about the feud, but it is, I guess it is kind of an important thing because it did maybe make the movie what it was. But he said one time, and I think, like I said, I think Shaw drank a lot while he was filming. He said he did, and he was going along the deck of the ship, which was not a great vessel to begin with, and he said he was having trouble. And Dreyfus said that Shaw said to him, "Richard, I need help. Like, help me out here." And he was carrying a glass of bourbon in his hand, and he said Dreyfus said to him, he said, "You really want my help?" And he said, "Yes, Richard, like I do." And he took the glass of bourbon and he threw the bourbon in the water. And he said everybody on the set went, and he said the look on Shaw's face. And he said the next day, or maybe later that day when they were shooting, there was a scene where Dreyfus had to untie knots in a rope. I think it was when they were really fighting the shark, and he's pulling at a knot and he's trying to untie it. And he said Shaw got behind a fire hose and was spraying it directly in his face. And he said that's the only time on set when I completely lost my mind because Shaw was trying to get back at him. But yeah, so like I said, I think where there's smoke, there's fire. I think there was definitely something to it. But again,
you've got these artists, these eccentric personalities together on a set that's going so overtime and is requiring so many reshoots. I'm not surprised frustrations got to people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's a wonder the movie got made in a lot of ways. That didn't get shelved. But yeah, thank God it did, because like I said, I do love the movie. I know you were saying it's maybe not your favorite, but I watch it maybe once every 2 or 3 years. I don't like to pull it out too often because it ruins it for you, or for me. But some people will watch a movie they love to death. Certain favorites, like every winter, I rewatch The Thing and The Shining during a winter storm.
Yeah.
Because to me, they're like both about isolation and cold and something menacing where you're trapped in an area. And not to get off onto another, but those are two movies that I watch every year.
Mm-hmm.
But like Jaws, I won't do that with, but so
yeah. Well, and again, let me get back to saying that, we all have our own tastes. Mine certainly do not mesh with a lot of the general public's.
Yeah,
and
mine don't always either.
Well, I don't see anything special about Jaws. Obviously, the rest of the world does. I mean, the highest grossing movie until Star Wars came out.
Yeah.
Spurred
Jaws
2, Jaws 3D, and Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah. Well, the sequels were mostly horrible.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
They really were. And as far as like, I would say something sacrilegious in the sense of, like, I don't consider the Star Wars franchise to be as much. People go all over that. They love it. And it's like, I'd rather watch an Alfred Hitchcock movie or a bad B movie over I love the original Star Wars, and
I love the original trilogy.
Yeah, yes, the original trilogy. I'll give I'll get to the original trilogy.
Right.
But like, I know, like, and like Mark Hamill always kind of bugged me, but hey, I still love Carrie Fisher was great in it. It's Harrison Ford. I mean, you can't replace any of that. It's a great franchise, at least the trilogy. But my God, like I don't even watch the sequels. It's like, nah, not another one. It's
I have to say again, so I am a horror sci-fi fanatic.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
me
I
too.
will watch movies even if I know they're not going to be good.
Yeah, yeah,
That's just who I am. And so I have seen every Star Trek show.
yeah,
I've seen all the movies at least once. I've seen all the Disney Plus shows. Heck, I've seen the cartoons,
yeah.
Rebels, Clone Wars.
Wow.
But yeah, after the trilogy, the rest of those movies just. And this is my opinion. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if there are huge Star
Oh,
Wars out there.
that's what it's about, man. It's movies are like art. They're very and by the way, that's a great piece of art behind you. The Dom is an
Thank you.
artist, by the way,
Thank you.
and that is his artwork behind. So hopefully, as we do these, we get to see more of Dom's artwork.
Well, we'll see. I'm slow at the art, but we'll
Well,
let's
yeah,
get
but
back to the movies.
yeah, but well, no, but I just want people to realize that is actually one of your creations behind you. So, but no, movies are subjective.
Mhm.
It's like anything. It's like a man or a woman. That one person's attracted to him, that another one says, "Oh my God, how could you get with that?" And it's like, well, it's
And that's the fun of talking about them, in that in chatting with another movie fan who's got a different point of view,
yeah,
they may point out something that you didn't see before.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's what we want to do here on this, because while we're talking about Jaws, we also want to tell viewers that we're gonna do more of this. Hopefully, people like this. If they don't, well, the hell with it. We'll probably still do it anyway because
We
we
love movies.
we like talking and we like movies. So, so
But if anyone does have some suggestions, let us know. Is this too short, too long? Are there other movies you want us to talk about?
yeah,
Because we plan on talking about a lot.
yeah, yeah. You can even tell us you don't like us, but unfortunately you're stuck with us because we're going to do this one way or another. But yeah, as getting back to Jaws too, because we're straying a little bit, but we do want to tell people, yeah, we're going to continue to do this with other movies. If people have suggestions about other movies that they'd like us to talk about, because we want to do like some B movies, we want to talk about like low budget movies, fun movies. We'll have like Dom pick a movie one time, I'll pick one time, whatever. But yeah, we chose Jaws today because hey, shark movies are the rage, and they're still like Sharknado. I mean, Sharknado would not exist if it wasn't for Jaws.
Shark Week wouldn't exist.
Yeah, Shark Week, and I don't watch Shark Week all the time, but every once in a while I tune into it, and it's the shark documentaries, the reef. Think of all these different movies, and even like that whole thing now with it's alligators too. They've been making alligator movies, but I actually I picked up a whole bunch of shark movies this summer, and I was watching I was like just going through just one after another, just streaming through shark movies, and it's like, and some of them were so bad, but they're good too. But yeah, it's like I said, they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Jaws. So
The Mythbusters,
yeah,
they
yeah,
did a 90-minute Jaws special
really,
where they just tested, like, oh yeah, the air tank blew up in the shark's mouth. Could
yeah,
this really happen? Could you really fend off a shark by punching the nose or the gills?
yeah,
And I'm not a huge fan of Mythbusters either, because they
yeah,
take an experiment and they drag it out way too long. I
oh
get
yeah,
it.
yeah,
But but just the fact that they do these experiments, I find interesting.
Well, yeah, and talking about you actually brought up something that I because I just rewatched before we I'm sure you did too. We both rewatched Jaws, but
Yep.
before we talked about it, but I one of the scenes when that thing's got the oxygen tank in its mouth and it's coming up out of the water. First of all, it's a dreadfully long. A shark doesn't come out of the water like that and just hold itself up. And he is shooting with a rifle. And I mean, how bad of a shot do you have to be? He's shooting this thing with the rifle, and it's got this big, huge open maw, and he can't hit that tank, and it's like, really, dude? Come on, give me the rifle.
Well, I mean, he was on the water. He's
Yeah. Oh,
not
yeah.
staying
The
ground.
boat's bobbing. He's scared. Hey, I've shot at the range, and good luck. Like sometimes hitting a target, even when you're not scared, or you're on a bobbing boat. But
I,
yeah,
I I am gonna throw a little tangent in here
sure.
just because when I was rewatching Jaws,
Yeah.
it was amazing how much it reminded me of the movie The Bay.
Okay, I know the Bay. I'm trying to think.
The Bay is a
What is that?
mockumentary horror movie. Came out in 2012, I
Okay.
believe, and it starts out so similarly. It's this um, East Coast town, beach town, tourist town.
Yeah.
Tourist dollars are really important to them.
Right.
These people are making a documentary, and they start picking up on these suspicious, potentially dangerous events, and they
Right.
try to warn people. And the town and the mayor, they're like covering everything up because they don't want to lose any money. And
Yeah.
eventually, it just goes too far, and all heck breaks out.
Yeah.
Uh, um, but like it just reminded me, like the start is almost identical in my mind.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you actually, you just reminded me too of it. You're talking about like the trying to cover up what's going on and everything, because that mayor was so damn corrupt and he had no
Oh my god.
morality. Yeah, he just all he cared about, and yeah, there was a whole thing about, because when you live in a tourist town, I mean, hey, me and you,
We all have.
we growing up by the ocean, the tourists that come in, the residents, they depend on that. The business owners all depend on those tourist dollars. That's important. And but it's hysterical. There's a scene where he's really trying to cover it up, and Dreyfus keeps saying to him, because he's the marine biologist, and Dreyfus keeps saying, he says, you're gonna end up as being shark bait, at which he wasn't going in the water. He was urging everybody else to go in the water. But the very next scene, and this was one of those, Spielberg, young director, but you could already see his brilliance when the very next scene after he's talking about, people as being like food for sharks, and you see the ferry pulling in with all the cars coming off and all the tourists, they're walking off, the cars are driving off, and it's all these people half dressed, they got their shirts off, they're women in bikinis, and they're coming off the boat, and it's like, yep, there they are. It's like chum in the water. It's they're the food for the sharks. But
now I don't know if you know this information, but I just started thinking about it.
sure.
What movie did Spielberg follow this with? Like, what was his next movie? Was it American Graffiti?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. It was, speaking of great movies, my God, American Graffiti, one of my. No, I don't know.
Well,
I know.
because the movie just before Jaws he did was Duel.
Okay, yeah, yeah, and Duel is actually a hidden sleeper.
Oh my God, I think Duel's better than Jaws.
I actually, in many ways, it is in the sense of the as a movie. It's yeah, and actually, Duel actually created a lot of the later menacing, like think of all the movies that have been made that where a truck or a car. I mean, even those ones where somebody, like, what was it, The Hitcher?
Yeah.
I don't think the hit show probably would exist if it wasn't for Joel,
Yeah,
because
you're probably right.
and then they made all those low budget ones, like what was it called, the car, the one that had, it was a black car, all the windows are completely smoked out and you can't even tell, is there even somebody driving it? It's like a ghost car. It was like this menacing car that was killing people.
I vaguely know what you're talking about, but I
Yeah.
can't for the life of me think of what the
Dennis
actual
Weaver,
movie
by
is.
the way, in Joel. That was a great one to bring up, because that actually was it's, and that movie has actually been re-released and remastered. I actually own a copy on Vudu. I'm buying a
Well,
lot.
I see such parallels between the Duel and Jaws.
Yeah,
With it's your average man on the open road or the
yeah,
open sea against this
yeah. Oh
almost
yeah,
force of nature.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And the trucker is so menacing. You really you don't even see him really. Um, it's just this menacing figure. Like there's one scene where Dennis Weaver goes into and he can't get any help for this. This truck is just this big huge rig coming after him, and he can't get any help. He goes to a diner, and everybody in there looks like it could be the guy, and he's pretty sure the guy's in there, but they never, it's like, is that the guy? They do a great job with making that whole thing be, I mean, just this evil this evil figure that's you never see in this giant truck that is like a ghostly truck almost,
Mhm,
and it's a
mhm.
shitty looking truck too. It's a,
And that's the thing. Like again, I know we're supposed to be talking about Jaws,
yeah,
but I feel that Duel was so much more suspenseful,
yeah,
and you had so much more empathy for the main character there, because in Jaws, let's face it, they could have just gone back to shore.
oh yeah,
What was the insane guy that forces them
yeah.
to just stay out there? He's the
Well,
Ahab.
and that's one of the reasons why the Indianapolis scene is so important, is that you have to understand what makes Quint this crazy character that he is. The fact that he was on the Indianapolis, ended up in the water for hours with all of his fellow sailors, and he's got a vendetta against sharks. I mean, the guy became a shark hunter.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's funny because I remember talking to a buddy of mine one time, and he was talking about gators in Florida, and there was some guy that got in trouble because he was killing gators like crazy, and the guy had one arm, and
Yeah.
the apparently the gator had bit off one of his arms, and my buddy was saying, he's going, he goes, if I had an arm bit off by a gator, he goes, I'd sort of have a grudge against him too.
Yep, yep.
which
I mean, you
which
can see that.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, so he had this maniacal, he had shark jaws all over the place. He sold them, he hunted them, he made a business out of hunting these things, because they killed his buddies, they killed his fellow sailors. So, and that was one of the things when I was rewatching it, because after you see that great scene where and his performance telling that story, I mean, the hairs, that's one of the reasons why you have to say that's a great movie. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. I mean, the first time I saw that scene, and every time since then, when he tells that story, I'm riveted. I'm just listening to him tell that story. And the other guys in the room are all like, "You were on the Indianapolis." It was, it's one of those great stories. But
Mhm.
and when he ends it with the great, he goes, "That's what happened." And the thing he says about a shark's eyes are like a doll's eyes, you know, and just that great delivery with his accent and everything. But but yeah, later on, this is what I got away from it. But my point was, later when they're on the boat towards the end and they're hunting the shark, he completely loses his mind. He's running the hell out of his boat. There's salt water going in there. The diesel engine's getting killed. They're all telling him, "You're going to kill the engine," and it's like, it's not even their boat, and they're trying to tell him, slow the hell down. And he's doing he smashes the
I
radio.
mean, he was almost as scary as the shark at that
Yeah,
point.
Yeah. So that was one of it was like kind of like the whole thing with the Ahab and the and the whatchamacallit, Moby Dick.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
like that. He became
Yep.
the he became the captain that was trying to kill the white whale.
Just obsessed with revenge.
Yes. So I mean, yeah, which of course ultimately causes his downfall too.
Yep.
But
Yep.
but
So,
no, it's
Mike,
yes.
I know us. We can talk about this forever.
Oh
but,
yeah.
But we might think about wrapping it up.
Sure.
Again, if there's anyone out there that has an opinion, like, oh guys, you got to keep it a lot shorter, or you should just go on and talk, because we could talk forever.
Yeah,
you don't
true.
know.
True. And another thing, I know we were actually just talking about this before too, because Dom was just saying before we started that he hates it when he hears people say, could you please leave a like and subscribe? But I will have to say it
You got to
because
say it.
you have to say it because it's important. I mean, in order for us to be able to continue doing stuff like this, we need the comments. We need the support in the comments, suggestions, things like if there's a movie like Dom was just saying. But the other thing is, please, if you would, leave a like, leave us, and subscribe if you would. And again, it's annoying when people say it, but it's something that needs to be said, unfortunately.
Just don't tell them to smash that like button. It's a computer. You
Yeah.
just click the button.
Yeah. So again, we hate to say it, but yeah, please, if you would, like, subscribe, and that's the end of that. We'll stop talking about that. But we do love to talk about movies, and
we're going to talk about more.
Yeah, we'll do this again. In fact, Dom will have to get together and plan what our next one, unless somebody's got some cool suggestions that they want us to talk about, and we'll talk about anything. We'll talk about, except porn. We'll stay away from that.
We won't talk about anything.
We might, but no. But yeah, like I said, we'll talk about the lowest budget B movies, crazy stuff, whatever people are interested in, because we're interested in all of it. But yeah, so Dom, I had a blast tonight with you. I hope you enjoyed it.
Looking forward to doing this again.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're gonna say goodbye, and we had fun. But yeah, thank you guys very much for listening to us and our silly banter. But till next time, thanks.